Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. I hope you guys are waking up and feeling good out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great weekend out there so far. Here to talk about a few things. The first topic in this morning's video will be severe weather. We're going to section off each state that could see impacts from this severe weather today. I do think there's a risk of tornadoes. There's certainly a risk of damaging winds and large hail, but they have upgraded the outlook for tornadoes. Now, they're not calling for like strong, significant tornadoes or anything like that as of right now. I don't think they will in any kind of update later on today, but there definitely is a risk of tornadoes. So we'll speak on that. We'll break it down, like I said, state by state and get you covered there. After we get done doing that, we will talk about what could happen on down the road. We'll speak on a time frame that I'm watching really for next weekend where we could have our next stronger storm system. So we'll speak on that. And then we'll talk about today's weather. In that portion of the video, we will speak on update information on how much snow you guys could expect for the Great Lakes region into the interior sections of New England over the next 48 hours. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get going this morning. So this is the latest outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. This could change here in the next update or two per the Storm Prediction Center, but this is what we got right now. A slight risk. You know, the Storm Prediction Center really nailed this from pretty far out. If you've been tuning in, they've had a slight risk for this same area just about for several days now. So they saw this pretty far out, and I think they did very well with calling this from just about a week out. So let's zoom into this area. Level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather, a slight risk. Memphis, Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee, Jackson, Mississippi, Greenwood, Columbus, Tupelo, Oxford, Pine Bluff, all of southeast Arkansas, down to El Dorado, Camden, down to Monroe, Shreveport, Louisiana. If you hear any barking in the background, I told you guys we got a new dog. And, well, dogs bark, especially puppies. So he's trying to get my cats to play with him and my other dog, which is a beagle, to play with him, but they are just not having it. But anyways, slight risk now extends pretty far into eastern Texas, all the way to Tyler, Longview, Jacksonville, Henderson. So level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather in these areas. Now a marginal risk, which we can't ignore, extends all the way up into almost Evansville, but it does include sections of like southern Illinois, Paducah, Kentucky, Mayfield, Madison, Bowling Green, down to Nashville. Gets pretty far east of Nashville too, into Cookeville, almost into Crossfield, down to Huntsville. Florence, you're technically in the slight risk now. Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, marginal risk, level 1 out of 5. Meridian, Mississippi, Hattiesburg, Macomb, Alexandria. And the marginal risk does extend all the way back to Austin, Texas now. So pretty far back. Little Rock, it looks like you're going to mainly deal with the stable air, so severe weather chances are not as high for today. Marginal risk technically goes all the way up through the Boot Heel of Missouri, including Jonesboro, Arkansas. So what's driving this today? Let's kind of center this once again. The tornado threat has increased for a pretty small area, and it's including an area where I really agree with. I think this area has the best chance to see a tornado if we're going to see one today. But let's talk about the lower risk area, and then we'll go to the higher risk area. I just want to tell you guys, hey, a 2% risk of a tornado is there all the way up to Bowling Green, Hopkinsville, Madisonville, Mayfield. It includes all of middle and western Tennessee, all the communities in that part of the state. It goes all the way back to the southeast areas of Arkansas, northern Mississippi, northern areas of Alabama. 2% risk of a tornado. It's just going to be a tough couple mornings with that, guys, until he gets used to stuff. Thankfully, it's not super busy right now. We can kind of get past that. But Jackson, Vicksburg, Lake Providence, Yazoo City, all these areas right here in this brown color, that is a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. So Jackson, up to Greenwood, over to just about Starkville, back to almost Monroe, Louisiana. This little corridor right here, 5% risk of a tornado. So I could see this getting a little bit larger in later updates today, but we'll see. But that 2% risk of a tornado, which I kind of forgot about mentioning, goes all the way back to Shreveport, Longview, Texas, all the way up to Pine Bluff. So watch out in this area. I'll zoom into it once again. 5% risk of a tornado. Now let's go to winds. Pretty large area. Pretty much the entire slight risk area. So all the areas I mentioned that are in a slight risk, you guys in this region, a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in a given location. I'll kind of zoom into some of these areas, and here it is. Hopefully you can see your town, city on here. Weather-wise does a great job with being, I mean, it's pretty much combining the severe weather outlooks with Google Maps. It's pretty cool. And then the hail threat, I mean, it pretty much, you might as well say, is the entire slight risk also. So if you live in this yellow area, that's where you have a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. So the dynamics are there certainly for large hail today. So be aware of that. Now let's section this off state by state. Let's start off by speaking on Arkansas. So this is around lunchtime today, and I'm going to forget to mention time frame, so just look up here. Pivotal weather, I've kind of figured out that we can section it out state by state now and on pivotal weather, and it shows timestamps for us. I think that's been some of the biggest complaints on my channel. Most of the time you guys present it in a very respectful way. I wouldn't even call it a complaint, just a suggestion that, hey Mitch, I don't know where the times are. Well, if you look up here, 12 p.m., it even has it in the right time zone, so CDT. So this is around lunchtime today in the state of Arkansas. We started to get some showers and storms that develop. You know, we're starting to get into 2 p.m., 3 p.m. These storms begin to fire in eastern areas of Arkansas. Now, the jury is still out if Little Rock gets really anything. These storms really might not get going, until they get south and east of Little Rock. So Little Rock might not even get a drop of rain, but there's a chance that they form kind of just west of Little Rock. So you see this storm near the Arklatex, near Texarkana. This could be strong to severe. These storms up here could be strong to severe, and you can't rule out a quick spin up, and definitely can't rule out some damaging winds and large hail. We start to get around 5 p.m. You see a stronger storm down here, just down the road from Little Rock. Any area, and this is just a radar simulation, this is just a prediction, this isn't exactly where these storms are going to be this afternoon, this evening. I mean, it could nail it, but chances are it's not going to be spot on. But just know where you are seeing these areas of orange, red, stuff like that, this is probably where you have the best chance to see thunderstorms today, and it fits the setup for today too. But you see this strong storm just outside of Memphis. You keep going to 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Another storm pops up around Memphis and 8 p.m. But most of the action looks to really get going outside of Arkansas, to the south and east of Arkansas. But we're definitely going to get some thunderstorms, some of which could be severe, probably in this area today. At least a chance, I would say, of Arkansas. So be aware if you live in that area of the state. Now let's go on and back it to the southwest a little bit, because I don't want to ignore my folks here in Texas, because the chances of severe weather have increased for Texas. So we'll start off around 5 p.m. We're getting to 6 p.m. now. And then bang, right around 7 p.m., we get some strong to severe thunderstorms that form kind of south of Dallas, from Waco down to Tyler, over to Shreveport. And all these storms could produce all hazards. In fact, there's probably better moisture, higher Cape levels further to the south down here. So I do think these storms could produce some very large hail. And you see that little area extending off this sail. This is where this could be rotating. But down here to Austin, up to Waco, just north of College Station. I mean, these guys, this could be a corridor of strong to severe storms today. So please be aware. And they continue to drift off to the east and southeast, pretty slow moving, because there's not a lot of flow in this area to really move these storms. So if a storm does form on top of you in this area, it might take a while to get through. So I could see some large hail being generated off some of these storms for sure. But you keep this going here, and these storms begin to, they might begin to lose some steam. I mean, we're all the way at like midnight at this point, right? We still got some storms up here near Tyler. But I do think after we get past midnight in Texas, things begin to simmer down, if you will. So If we move it over to Louisiana, we'll start off around, here it is, 11 a.m. So we get it to about lunchtime. We start to get some showers, some convection around Lake Charles, Lafayette, down to up to Alexandria. And then these showers could begin to intensify into just flat out storms. By the time we're in 5 p.m., we're starting to get some stronger storms firing just south of Monroe, maybe just north of Alexandria. I mean, they could very well be on top of these areas, but we continue to move this forward. I mean, this looks like a supercell trying to develop as it's getting closer to the Mississippi River. And then you see the storms right on top of Shreveport, up there near, up there in northwestern areas of the state of Louisiana. And then the storms kind of begin to cruise down the interstate from Shreveport to Monroe. And you keep going here, and just intense storms continue to fire kind of up here near the Texas-Louisiana state line. We got some strong storms kind of, I mean, this could very well just be all storms up here in northern Louisiana. Southern Louisiana, probably not as widespread in coverage, but you start to move to, at this point, we're at like 1 a.m. in the morning, okay, tonight. So about 1 a.m., these storms look pretty intense in areas of central and northern Louisiana. So it's very distracting. I'm trying, guys. But these storms begin to, look how intense they are between Monroe and Jackson, Mississippi. And these could be producing large hail, damaging winds. And listen, this area right up here is where you have that higher tornado threat per the Storm Prediction Center. But if you notice, southern Louisiana not getting as much thunderstorm activity. But we start to get to 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and these storms are still ongoing. I mean, so it looks like we could have multiple rounds of storms, and they're still ongoing. By the time we get into 6 a.m., 7 a.m. tomorrow, I mean, they finally begin to kind of get down to the southern areas of the state. But I think for, a good section of the afternoon, evening today, they will probably stay mainly in the northern half of Louisiana, but maybe not. And then checking out to Mississippi and Alabama, 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Remember the time frame is up here. You're seeing all the convection kind of around Jackson, point south. And then we start to get into 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and things start to get going really kind of closer to sunset. We get some storms up here in northern Mississippi. We got some storms down there near Jackson. Tupelo getting a thunderstorm around 8 p.m. according to this. And then these storms begin to kind of form a line, it looks like, especially in Mississippi, over into southeastern Arkansas and northern Louisiana. And this line of storms could produce all hazards: tornadoes, damaging winds, large hail. We start to get into 11 p.m. We start to get a lightning show in northern and central Mississippi, if this is correct. And you look over to northern Alabama, Florence, Huntsville, these storms could be intense. And then it just kind of drapes out into a line of storms. This is 1 o'clock in the morning, so chances are someone's going to get woke up here in the state of Alabama and Mississippi probably later on tonight. This is the middle of the night. It's going to be a loud night across the state. Storms are cruising through Jackson. Jackson could get a round of thunderstorms this afternoon to this evening, and another one overnight. Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, it's around 2 o'clock in the morning, up to Gadsden, all the way into northwestern Georgia. These storms are rumbling through and just could create a lot of ruckus overnight. If you got any dogs, animals that don't like the thunder, sound of the thunder, things like that, this could definitely be aware of the animals with this. But overall, I'm not expecting a severe weather outbreak overnight, but these storms could pack a punch, and you cannot ignore that more elevated tornado threat, which is, in this area right into here. Circle's probably not perfect compared to what we show in the severe weather outlook, but you get what I'm saying. So that's Alabama and Mississippi, and we'll round this off by looking at Tennessee, Kentucky time frame up here. So we'll start this around 8 a.m. this morning. We just got a big chunk of rain up here in Illinois and Indiana. And as we begin to move into 11 a.m., lunchtime, we're getting to 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Just looks like scattered convection. None of this looks very intense. But if that can clear out fast enough, any energy kind of behind all this could be intense. So we got this line of strong, maybe severe thunderstorms all the way up into, almost all the way up into southern areas of Indiana, but, stretching across western Kentucky. We got intense storms near Jackson, Tennessee, some storms near Nashville, Clarksville. And then we continue to go here, and we just basically get this line of thunderstorms. This is around 8 p.m. Line of storms kind of going all the way across western Tennessee, going across central Kentucky, Bowling Green getting some intense thunderstorms. And these continue just to across the entire state of Kentucky, Tennessee. I mean, this is around 10 p.m. tonight. These storms look pretty strong to intense. From Nashville points south, they've already moved through Nashville. Maybe at this point, Cookeville getting some nasty storms. These are heading towards like the Cumberland Plateau and eastern areas of Tennessee. By the time we get into midnight tonight, they're hitting Chattanooga, Knoxville, but they begin to looks like they begin to lose some steam, and we get some much needed rain that begins to move into the mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina, where we've had some issues with some fires breaking out. So the updraft Felicity swath kind of indicating that tornado threat today. It does, it shows some rotating thunderstorms up here too, guys. So that's why you cannot ignore the 2% risk area up here. Okay, so it shows some slashes of green and yellow, which indicates storms that are rotating. Doesn't mean necessarily get a tornado. Doesn't mean all these little areas are going to get tornadoes. It just means these storms are rotating and have a chance. But it really likes this area, and especially this area right into here, which is where you have that 5% risk of a tornado. So certainly areas that you got to watch for tornadoes. If you get under a tornado warning, don't let it shock you. I know it's not a high tornado risk today, but certainly do not ignore it, guys. So let's mention longer range. Okay, I'm going to fast forward this all the way to this coming Friday. I guess you can say this coming Friday now. The last Friday of March the 28th. So what I'm watching for is a storm system that might try to get going over the middle of the country. Even the Storm Prediction Center kind of discusses it with the moist return, the severe elements, obviously, because they are the severe, the Storm Prediction Center, and they're not going to talk about snow. But as we get this going, we start to get into next Saturday morning. You see just a lot of moisture getting pulled north across just the middle of the country. We get a 994 low that develops off this run of the Euro and then begins to intensify into a 990 low. The lower that number, the stronger the storm system. So this is next Saturday evening. We get another snowstorm breaking out across areas of the northern plains. We got a decently strong low. This would probably, if this is what happens, this would probably bring some severe weather chances across this region right here. But you keep this going and, it doesn't really intensify, but it does turn into a whopper of a late season snowstorm up here in Minnesota, areas of the Dakotas, northern Wisconsin, and the UP. So we just got to watch this. Another signal for a storm system, but I would not call this a strong signal. And I'll tell you why here in a second. But this goes on and carries out and moves into the eastern U.S. But I would watch next weekend for this storm system right here. Now the GFS, it does show a lot of energy over the middle of the country. You see the green, you see the blue, and orange and pink with the wintry mix up here. It does show a storm system kind of like next late Friday evening, but it definitely looks different. It kind of just meanders and just a big solid area of precipitation up here. And of course, almost a week out, you wouldn't expect them to totally match one another. But one thing you do look at is, hey, there's a lot of moisture over the middle of the country. It looks like you have some sort of solid low pressure. When you kind of match both the things together like that, you say, hey, there's probably a signal in this time frame for something. And if you look at the Euro ensemble, the blue colors you see on your screen, that's lower pressure, and then the yellows, that's higher pressure. So lower pressure means some sort of storminess, unsettled weather, in this case a storm system. And you get into next Saturday morning, you got a lot of lower pressure over the middle of the country. I know it shows two low pressures, but it's just trying to pick up on two central lows right here, but there's probably just one main low pressure, I would imagine. So it just shows a large area of darker blue over the middle of the country, which tells us there's a storm signal. So you might ask, well, just because there's a storm signal, I don't know what that means. Well, anytime you get a storm signal or a storm system over the middle of the country this time of the year, and has an opportunity to bring a lot of low-level moisture up here, because the flow around these low pressures do like this, remember? So this is going to yank up moisture from the north, from the south to the north, up into an area out ahead of the low. So that would create a corridor that supports moisture for strong to severe thunderstorms. That doesn't mean you're going to get it, because you need a lot of other things to come together also. But anytime you see energy kind of shooting across this area, you're going to have the potential for a colder side depending on the time of the year, and then you're going to have the potential for severe weather. So that's why we watch this area of the country a lot this time of the year. So now, just speaking on the severe weather chances as we get into next week, I think the work week will be a pretty quiet week of weather. I think, like I said, as we get into next weekend, we're going to start this off next Friday. This coming Friday evening, afternoon. Dew points are in the 60s along the Gulf Coast line, especially the western Gulf Coast line. And dew points in the 50s do extend all the way up here into the Midwest. But you keep this going. Oh, come on, guys. Come on, Pivotal Weather. You keep this going, and we start to get into Saturday morning. That moisture you see begins to build. Those higher dew points begin to build north. And then we start to get all the way into next Saturday evening. And we get dew points creeping into the 60s, almost all the way up into southern Missouri. So this entire corridor of moisture is going to be overlapped by a favorable wind pattern. Favorable winds aloft. Are you going to have a pushing mechanism in the atmosphere to get these storms going? Is there going to be any turning, like a low-level jet? That kind of stuff we won't find out until on down the road. But what I'm noticing here is a big yanking of low-level moisture across the southern tier and even the eastern U.S. I mean, we got these dew points getting all the way up into the 60s, and this is the Euro ensemble. So it's a good thing to look at, this range. It blends all model guidance, not all model guidance, but it blends 51 members together and creates a mean or an average. So you certainly got a signal for moisture getting pulled pretty far north over this coming weekend, next weekend. And then it kind of flattens out with maybe a cold front, but it still hangs pretty tight down here along the Gulf coastline, which, I mean, we're starting to get close to April. You would expect that. It gets harder and harder to beat down that Gulf moisture the later you get in the year. But the next thing you look at is, the wind flow aloft. So as we're starting to move into next Saturday, do we have any flow over that favorable low-level moisture? So this is next Saturday evening. And let's look at the moisture for next Saturday evening. Let's back it up right here. Okay, your best moisture is right in this area. Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Eastern Texas. Kind of the same areas that's been affected by severe weather and that will get affected by it today. So this is next Saturday evening. Best moisture right there. Where's your best flow aloft? Well, it's right here. So it's a little bit displaced. You got 40, 50 knots of upper level flow kind of rumbling through Texas, Oklahoma. And there's just enough flow over that very moist air to maybe get some storms going, but there's not it looks like there's a displacement of ingredients is what I'm trying to say. Now, as we start to get into Sunday, they start to overlap each other a little bit better, so we get this big corridor of southwesterly flow, or westerly flow, I would say in this case, that kind of goes like that. And then there's a potential that could overspread a pretty moist air mass as we start to get into Sunday. You see how the same line shows up there? So I really think next Saturday and Sunday are days to watch. But am I seeing a signal for a massive severe weather outbreak? No. But would I be surprised if we wake up tomorrow or the next day to a slight risk somewhere in this area? Say for next Sunday, like maybe this area right in here, I wouldn't be surprised at all. That's just something to watch. So moving forward, talking about today's weather, this is what we're looking at. We do have snow flying around across northern Minnesota and surrounding states. We got an all-out winter storm that's going to move into areas of Wisconsin, the UP, and Michigan. So we'll speak on that. That'll be a heavy topic in this morning's video. Big chunk of rain moving across the Midwest right now. And then we'll get those strong to severe thunderstorms that develop later this afternoon to this evening across areas of the South. Well, that's what's going on right now. Watches, warnings, and advisories. We do have some red flag warnings across the plains, and we have some special weather statements just because of how dry and low humidity it is. We've had, I really think a lot of it has to do with Helene. Also, we have loose stuff everywhere from what Helene did through this area. And, I think I mentioned it the end of last year. I thought the wildfire season would be bad in the southeastern areas of Southern Alps. And I think we've been pretty lucky so far. with some of these drier cold fronts, and I think it's because we haven't had a whole lot of dry cold fronts. Some of these fronts have at least brought a little bit of rain with them, but I still think that we got to continue to watch the next several weeks across areas of the southern Appalachian Mountains. But moving it back up here, we've had upgrades to winter storm warnings across northern Wisconsin and to several counties and the UP and Michigan. The purple color is winter weather advisories. We got a few winter weather advisories in northern lower Michigan. I think we'll get more widespread winter weather advisories across northern lower Michigan in the later updates. In fact, we might get a few winter storm warnings. I'm very surprised there's no winter weather advisories, at least up the Interstate 75 corridor right into here. But this is what it's looking like right now. We'll break this down in more detail here in a second. The excessive rainfall outlook, there is a risk of flooding, but it's very small in certain areas of the country. But all in all, not too bad. If you're wondering about the Storm Prediction Center outlook, I discussed the entire severe weather threat for today right at the beginning of the video. But the southeast today, we've already covered the severe thunderstorms right here in this region. So like I said, you want more info on that, just check out the beginning of the video. But all the leftover energy will continue to head into the southern Appalachian Mountains, which is good. Southern Central Apps, because we need the rain. And then northern Georgia will get some rain. This will be a good pollen washer to kickstart your work week. And by the time I'm waking up tomorrow morning, waking up to an area broken line of showers and storms moving across the Gulf coastline, Georgia, up through South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. So this is for tomorrow morning. Up here in the Northeast, it's a quiet start, but we are going to get some weather that moves in later tonight. So let's back this up. We rushed through that a little bit quick. This is later on this afternoon to this evening. You'll have a rainy end to your weekend across Ohio. This will mostly be rain. Rain moving across West Virginia for tonight. We got rain showers across PA, Maryland. We got rain moving across the Delmarva. This is like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning tomorrow morning. And then this will be snow across the interior sections of the Northeast. We could even get a period of snow tomorrow morning across southern New England. We'll see who gets that. That'll be interesting. But Vermont, New Hampshire, this is mostly snow. We're going to carry this into Monday. An all-out kind of a late season winter storm, if you will, kind of breaks out across main areas of Vermont, New Hampshire as a surge of moisture crashes into some lingering cold air. And by the time we're into tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, I mean, it's snowing across most of the state of Maine. And then we'll get some wraparound moisture in the form of some snow showers behind this late tomorrow night. But as far as snowfall between now and just the next 48 hours, if you live in the whitish blue color, and then darker, over an inch to 4 inches of snow is possible. The darker the blue, the more snow. So up here near Caribou, maybe 3 to 4 inches of snow. Vermont, New Hampshire, just depends on where you live. Lower elevations, not that much. Higher elevations, a few inches of wet snow. And then we drop it down to the rest of New York here. And Adirondacks will pick up a few inches of wet snow. Everywhere else, maybe a dusting of wet snow is possible. Certainly a little bit into the Berkshires. The Catskills could get a few inches of wet snow, but outside of that, guys, I mean, not a big event at all. You hanging on to winter certainly a lot longer up here than for other folks. But the South Central U.S., we've already talked about Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas. There's Texas too. Storms could develop as far southwest as Central Texas, though, so don't let it surprise you in Austin today if you get a severe, strong thunderstorm. And then we start to get into tomorrow morning and things begin to quiet down for a period. Up here in the north central U.S., we'll get this stronger upper low that continues to pivot through. So this is around midday. You see the snow breaking out across the northern half of Wisconsin, UP and Michigan, snowy Sunday. Getting into this afternoon, this wet snow begins to move in, some backside flow, hammering you guys up there in northeast Minnesota with heavy snow. And this just continues to slowly spin around. Big area of moisture changes in the snow later this evening into the northern lower Michigan area. So it snows pretty heavy for a few hours overnight tonight. And then it continues to snow in the UP and Michigan into the wee hours of the morning. And then this low kind of re-pivots back through, brings some more snow over lower Michigan, maybe some snow showers even back towards Chicago, Milwaukee for tomorrow morning. And then this thing begins to just spin on out and head on out. So snowfall between now and the duration of this event, International Falls, 4 to 8 inches, not 48, 4 to 8 inches of snow, northeast Minnesota. I mean, areas could get over 10 to 16 inches of snow depending on where you live. So, man, Big snow event up here, late season snow event. 2 to 5 inches of snow in Duluth is expected. Grand Rapids 2 to 4. Hurley 6 to 11. Ashland 2 to 4. We move to Wisconsin here. Mountain 6 to 11. A lot of names that don't want to butcher here, but Florence 5 to 9. Eagle River 5 to 9. Rhinelander 5 to 9 inches. Winchester 5 to 8. Green Bay 1 to 4 inches of snow. Sister Bay 2 to 5. But there is a sharp cutoff down here, like Marshfield could get 2, could get 7 inches of snow, and it really cuts off down here. So, and then the UP of Michigan. I got some viewers up here. This will be a decent snowstorm for you guys, especially for the western UP. The western UP, and once you start to get into that yellow color, that's over 6 inches of snow that's forecast. But all the central and eastern UP of Michigan too could get 3 to as much as 7 inches of snow, I would say, but definitely a decent event. And then we'll take it down to lower Michigan. I do think we'll get upgrades to winter weather advisories, maybe even a few winter storm warnings down here. But Gaylord, 5 to 8. Traverse City 3 to 6. Pellston, I think is how you say it, 5 to 8. Alpena 4 to 6. Bad Axe 1 to 4. So, but out west, just continue to get the same kind of pattern, just energy shooting across the Pacific Northwest. The Northern Rockies, but none of this energy is strong. It's just consistent, just waves of light to moderate precipitation. So nothing really going on. It's really starting to dry out in the Southwest. Temperatures, sorry guys. Temperatures today, the South, very nice day. 70s, low 80s, very dry. Especially the further east you get into the Southeast. Very cold day in the Northeast, just hanging on to winter. Pocket of cold air where this rain is across the Midwest, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio. And then out west, pretty warm day for the most part, especially the Southwest. So that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all and have a wonderful day.